Good morning, folks. Pilgrim here. Folks, yesterday I apologize. I didn't do today what is going to be today's reading. I should have done it yesterday, but I was so incredibly sick. And it was crazy. I have no idea what caused it. And it's a shame because I was so proud. I found the biggest cup for my coffee that I've ever seen. It's wonderful. You know? It's lovely. Now, I got it from the Goodwill store. And Kelly says I should have washed out the cup. And that's probably what made me sick, but I don't listen to her. You know? I figured the temperature of above 86 degrees, bacteria gets killed anyway and dies, but I had my cup of coffee and I was sick, so, I didn't listen to her, and that's fine. I'm not saying she was right, by the way. It may not have been that. I actually think it was a sickness that was developing before that. But just for sake of the argument, because she brought it up a couple of times, for the sake of the argument, she then says, well, fine. You're paying for your own Tylenol, though. Anyway, I still haven't washed it out. It's my second cup. A third. So, what is that? That's a fleck of coffee. Never mind. I'm pretty, There's something floating in my coffee. There we go. It's a coffee grain. Good. I'll just keep using it until it gets dirty enough for me to need to wash it. But, it's just the way I am. I'm pretty low-level stuff here. Today we're going to read 1 Corinthians 6. But before I get there, I would like you to take notice of something. What I've been posting on my Facebook wall. Maybe I should just show you. Well, you don't need to see that. Here's my Facebook. Hananiah, live, the Israeli Air Force's worst nightmare just came true, okay? Tell me if you see a theme. Islam is now moving big time into Little Rock, Arkansas. Trump just delegitimized I think Syria. He's taken Syria off of the state sponsor of terrorism list. Okay. 50 major wildfires burning now across the American West and Alaska. And fires and heat are spreading across Europe like crazy. It's not the first time it's happened, but this is the worst it has been. There are a recorded 20,000 people dead in Europe from heat-related injuries and burns and so on. I feel sorry for the people who cannot take this seriously, who think, oh, everything's a stage, everything's fake. Not everything is fake. If everything was fake, then how is God going to take the world by surprise by the 7-year tribulation? When they're trying to pin down their new world order, God does what he does from the heavens. But if every time he does something, you're going to say, oh, it's the Illuminati and the WEF and so on. If you're going to say that every single time God does something, then at what point are you recognizing God's hand in the judgment that he decreed? July 17th, we have 6 planets making a beeline right in line with the Milky Way. A rare 6-planet alignment on July 17th, 2026. I don't know if you've, and that's just one of my articles. I don't know if you have seen the advertisements I don't know if it's a band or an artist and so on, but he's timing it really well, and somebody's timing it. There's no direct feature of any artists and so on, so it's a generalized, and we all know about the mental manipulation and the psyops that go on Facebook like crazy. But there is this ad which is running constantly, showing this with the heavy use of AI, by the way, not good AI, showing this brand new world with this catchy music, and across the screen it's branded New God. Be ready to meet your new God. But anyway, New God. And as it hones in with this music, kind of supposed to make you think how wonderful this new age is, this new world. It's, all kind of magical sounds. As it focuses in, then it says July 17th. Singularity on July the 17th. They've just shut down CERN. And every time they shut down CERN, something really ugly happens. They do it in between each times. I've spoken many times about what I think happened on April the 8th, 2024. The Genesis timeline, which I've been sharing for the last 20 years, pointed toward that date and beyond. And the Genesis timeline prophecies that I've been sharing on my YouTube channel finish in the year 2027. And I can tell you this without reservation. The year 2027 is going to be the beginning of hell on earth. Mark my words. That's prophecy. 2026 to 2027, from September onwards, it's going to begin to be hell on earth. 2027 is the year that the Genesis timeline prophecies that I've been sharing for 20 years come to a finish. 7-year tribulation is on top of us. Don't forget, they use the Jewish calendar. So it's not January until January. It's September to September. September 23rd or somewhere around there. Each Jewish New Year. September to September. You gotta look at it that way. That leaves plenty of time for their 7-year tribulation. And they've said it themselves, out of their own mouths. They are achieving singularity. And they expect you to be part of that singularity. If you don't fit in, their brave, shiny new world, where they put a chip in your head or in the back of your hand. They're getting ready for it. People won't submit to it. There's going to be a lot of trouble over this. And they know that. That's why they're gearing up militarily, while at the same time very covertly demilitarizing, disarming the public. Not just here, but all over the world. All over the world. So we have this Facebook thing, and it's just very interesting to me, ahead of time, that this psyop, I'm going to call it a psyop, doing the rounds on Facebook, is declaring July 17th the date of singularity, surrounding whatever it is they're doing. It doesn't matter whether it's a music festival or this or an artist piece, or it could be an art museum. I don't care what it is. It's the announcement that's more important than the product. That's how these things work. The product is just the excuse to put the announcement and put the image out there before you, before your eyes, and into your mind. Okay? This is how psyops work. Don't care what the product is. People say, oh, it's just for this. You're making something out of nothing. No, you're focusing on the hand holding the message. You're not reading the message. The object is unimportant. And they choose this, and now we have the alignment of 6 on July 17th. So I watch all of these things, because these people live by two things. They live by the Jewish calendar, and they live by what happens in the heavens, signs and wonders. We're told that Satan does signs and wonders. Why? Because he's imitating God. Because Jesus said, keep on looking up, be found watching and waiting. There will be signs from the Lord. Satan is the author of confusion, illusion, and delusion. One of these three will fit everything he does. I showed you the stuff about Israel before I get on to 2 Corinthians 6. Because all of what's happening now started a few days ago, where Trump was on the phone with Benjamin Netanyahu. And he said something, and I don't have the exact words, but he said something very similar to, I'm utterly sick of you. I got two Jews, like they're a commodity, okay? He says, I got two Jews on the other end of this phone line who feel exactly the same. He says, I am utterly sick of you. I got two Jews on the other end of this phone who feel exactly the same. Somehow he's figured that just because they're Jewish, they all have to think the same way. Therefore, Netanyahu must comply. And let me explain something to you. Obama got mad at Netanyahu. He hated him. Every other US president has hated Netanyahu. Every single one after Obama has hated Netanyahu. He was blocked from offices. Obama invited him over and then walked out and they had lunch with someone. A deliberate middle finger to Netanyahu's face. Biden treated him just as badly, if not worse. Trump makes a big scene, stating before the world that Israel would not exist if it were not for him, for Trump. That without Trump, there would be no Israel. How loudly do you think those words are ringing in God's ears? When at this one point in time, more than any other time in history, in fact at the end of our history, of what we understand to be history, he is trying to save both Jew and Gentile, but the 7-year tribulation is to save the Jews. For such words to come out of a world leader's mouth, what do you think is going to happen? So after every single US president has hated Netanyahu, everyone, Obama, Biden, you name it, all of them, every single one of them, now Trump. And because he won't do what they say. America's done all this for you, you're supposed to do this. Israel's response is, I'm not your lapdog. You want something from us. And we're grateful for any help you can give us. But this nation, this Israel, has survived 4,500 years of dictators, conquerors, invaders, emperors, kings. They know how to survive. And they have developed the mentality that they have because they know how to survive. So, some of them already realize they've gone too far when they presented the silver chalices to this man, to calling him directly the Prince of Peace. And what I think is happening, personally, just my personal opinion, after Trump screamed at Netanyahu and told him how sick of him he was, and I've got two Jews on the other end of this line who agree. Oh, we're all supposed to agree. I didn't know that. Because Benjamin Netanyahu won't just bend over and let him have his way. After he did that, he went out and sold the most lethal fighter jets to Turkey, who have sworn to kill and destroy Israel. They are part of the coalition that make up Gog of Magog in the last days, which we see that coalition already forming. It's never formed before in human history. The nations have been named, but they never existed on the world scene all together at the same time. And the prophet Daniel says, when you see them together at the same time, That is the age and when it's going to happen. The last days started in May 1948 with the re-establishment of Israel as a nation. So I think this is punishment or coercion, because Trump went out and sold the most lethal fighter jets to Turkey that exist on the face of the earth. Even and described the Turkish Prime Minister Erdogan, oh, he's great, he's a great guy, he's wonderful, knowing that he wants to kill Israel. I think he blew a fuse. He sold these jets to Turkey. Now he's gone to Syria, who have been doing nothing but launching missiles into Israel from day one, through every peace treaty that Trump has organized between the two nations, and they have kept on the barrage of missiles into Israel to kill as many Jews as possible. And he's taken Syria off the terrorist watch list. Sat down with an interview, which I have on Facebook here, as I just showed you. Said, oh no, this guy's great. He's super, he's wonderful, let's get along with him. If this is coercion, to make Israel say, what are you doing? We need your help. We need this. Israel's not going to do it. This is to back Israel into a corner and make them plead for the help. And then Trump will turn around and say, well, if you really need the help, then you'll do what I say. Don't forget that Trump is single-handedly furthering the two-state solution, which is the final solution, phase 2. The splitting of the land of Israel, the dividing of God's land, and the splitting of the city of Jerusalem into 3 pieces, which God says you shall not do. Read the book of Obadiah and Joel chapter 3. That when this is achieved, God's rage, his absolute fury, boils up into his nose, and he won't take it anymore. And he unleashes his full fury. He who touches you is touching the apple of my eye. You stick your finger into my eye, I'll cut your finger off. And that's exactly what he does. This current administration's betrayal of Israel with Turkey, with Syria, and numerous other nations lead me to a conclusion that we should never question something that we are told in private by God. Because in 2010, I was given a dream, and most of my dreams have come true, and I'm not ashamed or embarrassed to say this, to say that I had a dream. I know a lot of people say all that nonsense. But it comes under, I believe, the spirit of discernment, the spirit of prophecy. And I was told a lot of things that would happen in that dream. In 2010, I was told that the U.S.-Mexican border would come down. I was shown very clearly who would be crossing it. And in that dream, I saw a large man with orange or blonde hair. I couldn't tell because I'd never seen him before. And I made the mistake of misidentifying him as Mitt Romney, who has brown eyes and black hair, which was stupid. I was trying to make it fit, which is the one thing that you should never do with prophecy. If you're given something, you stick to it. And here's my second mistake. In that dream, I saw who was coming across the border and what they were coming to do. It was stated to me very, very clearly. You can still find that video, I believe, up on my YouTube channel if you want to see it anytime. I described this man. He shows his teeth when he smiles. He's wearing a suit, and his chest was kind of puffed out. Of course, 15 years later after that dream, I'm able to identify that man as Trump, even though I'd never heard of him at the time that I was given it, because of my background in other countries, and everything was still fairly new to me. But in that dream, he had his hands out over these Muslims, as if guarding them, guiding them, protecting them. And ever since Trump came in office, That's the exact opposite of what he's been doing. He's been putting America first. He's been doing a lot of good things. He has been deporting and rounding up all the troubles with ICE. He's been doing a lot of good things for this country. A lot of good things. But with a constantly Israel-centric view in mind, especially in prophecy. What's happening now with Syria, Saudi Arabia, Turkey. I wrote several days ago, and someone forwarded it on their own Facebook, and I don't have it here. But I spoke it before it happens. If he does this, if he supports Turkey, as I saw it beginning to happen, they are going to build up their weapon systems. That's the first thing they're going to do. A couple of days later, he sells them the fighter jets. And that's the first thing they did. Started building up their weapon systems on a massive scale. You can see the armament of Gog of Magog before the invasion takes place. We will not be here to see it. But you see everything moving into place. And I just think it's ironic that Trump is trying so hard to do good things. But every domino he pushes over collapses the dominoes in front of it that lead to the fulfillment of prophecy. Every single one, not a beat missed. Not one that needs interpretation to make it fit. Not one. The coalition builds and Babylon will fall. It's absolutely crazy that he sold the fighter jets. I think F-15 to these can evade radar and so on, but nevertheless, these are the people who will march down from the north because now they have the weapons, equipment, and confidence to do so. Another interesting thing is that Revelation talks about Gog of Magog coming down from the north, and we know the direct north, as identified in Daniel and Ezekiel, refers to the land of Magog, which is, if you draw a line directly north from Israel, leads you directly to the city of Moscow. And the ancient towns of what we now know as Russia, China, the Far East, Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, and all these countries making an alliance. Revelation makes an interesting point about them coming down from the north, dressed all in their finery, on horseback. Horseback? That's interesting. We live in a modern age. We don't use horses anymore. Let me stun you with something that Russia has just decided to do. Right here at the last minute, in the last seconds of the last days. After numerous disasters in Iraq and in these other wars in Afghanistan and so on that it's been getting involved with, Russia has now decided, since horses can detect landmines, instead of jeeps and tanks going over them and suffering the consequences, the soldiers have to get out, be shot at while they're trying to fix it, and so on and so on. Horses, I don't know how, but they can detect landmines and they won't go near them. So now they're retraining all their military. At the very last second in time, they're putting their military on horseback. Seriously, they are breeding horses by the thousands and training their troops, especially for conquest invasion missions, to ride on horseback in fulfillment of prophecy, and they don't even know it. In a modern technological age, we have the very nation fingered by God, described as coming on horseback, suddenly switching over from tanks and jeeps to horses, thousands upon thousands of them. It's very, very interesting to watch. God says in Daniel that when this happens, Gog of Magog will be on the mountains of the Golan Heights. Now, the Golan Heights is a very interesting militarily strategic area, because you can stand on top of the Golan Heights. You can literally carve Israel up with your eyes. So militarily, it is perfect. And God says that Gog will be there on the Golan Heights. Now, as far as all the other nations are concerned, Turkey has never been there. Not in human history. But when you look at the Golan Heights and the fight over the control and the alliances between Russia, China, and Iran, and what's going on there, Israel's at the center of all this, and Israel's in the way. You go up to the Golan Heights right now, what do you see? You'll see tons and tons and tons of Russian tanks, military, armaments, and personnel guarding the border. The Lord is close, very close. Let's read 2 Corinthians 6. We then, workers together, also plead with you not to receive the grace of God in vain. For he says, in an acceptable time of his choosing, I have heard you, and in the day of salvation, I have helped you. He is quoting here from Isaiah 49, verse 8. Okay? Behold, now is the acceptable time. Now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. Since the moment Jesus died, boom, now is the time. There's a time limit. The time's running out. We give no offense in anything, that our ministry may not be blamed, but in all things we commend ourselves as ministers of God, in much patience, in tribulations, which we discussed in chapters 5 and 4. In much patience, in tribulations, in needs, in distresses, in stripes, in imprisonments, in tumults, in labors, in sleeplessness, in fastings, by purity, by knowledge, by long-suffering, by kindness, by the Holy Spirit, by sincere love, by the word of truth, by the power of God, by the armor of righteousness on the right hand, and on the left, by honor and dishonor, by evil report and good report, as deceivers and yet true, as unknown and yet well known, as dying, and behold we live, as chastened and yet not killed, as sorrowful yet always rejoicing, as poor yet making many rich, as having nothing and yet possessing all things. O Corinthians, we have spoken openly to you. Our heart is wide open. You're not restricted by us, but you are restricted by your own affections. All of these things that we went through, all these chapters in the first these two letters that Paul wrote to the Corinthians, the only thing holding them back are the very things that he fingers, that he identifies in these chapters. You are restricted by your own affections, the things you can't let go of. Now, in return for the same, I speak as if I'm speaking to children. You also, in return for our openness to you, you also be open. Please, do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with lawlessness? And what communion has light with darkness? And what accord has Christ with Belial? Or what part has a believer with an unbeliever? And what agreement has the temple of God with idols? How many idols do you have in your life? Seriously, don't answer. It's between the Lord and you, but you know. What agreement has the temple of God with idols? For you are the temple of the living God. Therefore, what do you have? What agreement do you have with idols? As God has said, I will dwell in them, inside them, and walk among them. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Ezekiel 37, verses 26 and 27. Therefore, remember this, and tell me where it comes from. In the face of this, you are the temple of the living God, right? As God has said, I will dwell in them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. You have no agreement with idols. The temple of God with idols. What part is a believer with an unbeliever? Therefore, verse 17, come out from among them and be separate, says the Lord. Do not touch what is unclean, and I will receive you. I will be a father to you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, says the Lord Almighty. Therefore, come out from among them. Come out from among her. Come out from her, my people, lest you be held guilty with her. Revelation 17 and 18. It's the same call. It's nothing new in the Bible, but it's just as urgent the second time and the third time as it is the first time. You are Christians. You are the called out ones, not the ones who accommodate the world and look for the norm that you feel like you've lost. You are the called out ones. You are called out from this world. You are not called to accommodate to it and bury yourself in home comforts, because this world is passing away, and so is its desire to just get along, but change nothing. God is bringing his new world. He's going to change everything, and all of this evil will be swept away. Do not ask for it to remain by your actions and by your connections with its idols. We all need help with this. All of us. Keep watching what the world is doing, but don't join in with them. Because if you're watching close enough, your jaw should be hanging below your face, almost touching the floor. The Lord is near. God bless you, folks. Keep on looking up. I think this video may have been a little shorter than normal. I apologize for it, if it is. Keep your eyes on the Lord, folks, and God bless you, and perhaps we'll see each other soon. God bless.